Even if you have lessons with a great teacher, you're probably already aware that you need to put in the work, and actually you need to teach yourself and spend the time practicing. And you want to make sure that you're spending time practicing and actually progressing, that you're not wasting your time. In this video, I'm going to go over a way of working, an approach to practicing that I think is really useful, and that's going to help you ensure that you're not wasting your time. And I'm also going to talk about 3 things that you want to keep in mind when you work like this so you get the most out of it. My name is Larsen. Learn jazz, make music. I'm of course talking about recording yourself. This is a fantastic tool. It is by now really easy to do. It is the only way to make sure that you can be a good teacher for yourself and really check out how you sound when you're playing. But there are of course also problems with this. And in this video, I'm first going to talk about why, then how and what to use when you're recording yourself. Then I'm also going to talk about sort of the biggest problem with recording yourself that most of us face, but that you can also overcome. And finally, I'm going to go over 3 things that are really important when you're working like this, that are really going to help you get a lot more out of it. A big part, maybe the biggest part of what you pay a teacher to do is to listen to your playing and then tell you what to work on, what to improve, and how to practice it. And then of course in the following lessons, evaluate whether that is working and whether you're in fact getting better. You can do this for yourself. You can be your own teacher if you record yourself, because there you can take a step back and then really listen to how it sounds, identify problems, and then find out how to improve your playing and get rid of those problems. And of course you evaluate that by just recording yourself again and then checking, maybe comparing the different recordings. When you're playing, then you're spending most of your energy, most of your focus on just performing the music, which is what you should be doing. But that does mean that you can't really spend a lot of energy listening to yourself and figuring out how it actually sounds. So it's a lot easier and a lot more practical to record yourself and then take a step back where you don't have to really concentrate on playing the music and just listen to how it sounds. And it's really a great place to catch some things that are pretty subtle, pretty difficult to hear when you're playing something. And that would be stuff like your swing feel, if you're playing 2 triplet or 2 even, how your phrasing is in general, if you're stuck in one range on the instrument and always playing in the same octave, or if there are other phrasing issues that you want to just work on and spot, because they can be difficult to really catch if you're already playing and need to focus on also just getting through the song. By now, most of us have smartphones, and smartphones are by design really good at recording video. So I would suggest that that's where you start. I think the thing to really pay attention to here is that you can get a clear image, that you have light enough, and also that the sound is good enough. You need to take a little bit care with getting a decent sound, because if the audio is distorting, then you can't really tell how you're playing. Then it's going to be difficult to hear sort of the finer details of timing, or maybe the phrasing is going to be unclear. Some notes are going to be hard to hear. And these are things that are going to make it difficult for you to really evaluate how you're playing. A bonus feature of using video is that you can also focus on technical things. So you can really say, well, I'm working on my right hand. I want to do some video where I'm really just checking out how my right hand is moving when I'm playing certain exercises or certain types of phrases, and see if I can improve on that, if there's something that I can work with here. And that's something that's actually very useful, and you can do a lot with just a phone and a coffee mug on the table. When you're recording yourself practicing, very often it can be useful not to use a backing track right away, but really start with a metronome. And that's really just because that's a little bit more difficult for you. You need to feel more time, you need to feel the groove, and it's much more of a tell what is going on. And if you have a backing track, it can be really hard to tell if you're being precise, if you really have a strong sense of groove and how your phrasing really sounds. So for that reason, a metronome can be really useful. At the same time, if you're working with a backing track or maybe an app like Drum Genius, that's a great way to check if you're really locking in with the groove and if you're really together with the drums that are happening in the music, and of course the rest of the rhythm section. In terms of how you work with these recordings and evaluate the playing, there are 3 things that you need to be really aware of, and I'm gonna cover those a little bit later in this video. I don't like listening to myself and I don't like my own playing. That is pretty much how we all feel. I think everything that we play, because we've already practiced it, it all feels like a tired cliche if we can actually make music with it. And this is also something that you hear stories about with people that we look up to. Alan Holdsworth or Michael Brecker were both really famous for hating listening to recordings of themselves. Anything that you begin with is of course difficult. I think a lot of this is really just about getting started, getting used to it. The first few times it doesn't feel nice to listen to your own playing, and that gets actually distracting. But at the same time, if you get used to it, you can really use it as a tool to listen to what is happening with your playing, what you need to work on, and also, of course, you need to make sure to check out what you can do. And it can be even useful to have like a list of saying, okay, there are 3 things I need to work on in my playing, but I also need to recognize that there are 3 things that I already do really well and that I can do, that I've worked on, and that now work within what I'm doing. Another thing that can be really useful if you're just starting out recording yourself in your practice sessions is to record yourself and then not listen right away. Get some space, get some time in between the recording and when you listen to it, because then you're a little bit more distant. You don't have a memory of, oh, I should have played that, and when I get to that chord, it doesn't sound good. If you don't remember that, if that's not really something that happened 2 seconds ago, then you're going to listen completely differently and you can quite clearly hear what is going on. And that can be really useful. It is also something that we use when we're making records. We of course listen when we've done a take of a song, but in general, if you want to really figure out what take makes it to the album, then you give it a few weeks so you have some distance in between, and then you make some choices. The same goes for practicing. I suspect that the biggest part of the problem here is that gap that there is between how it feels to play something and then how it actually sounds. But once you start recording yourself, you actually get used to how you sound, and that gap gets a little bit smaller, and also you get used to that there is a difference and that you can work with this. And that's really what you want to do. You want to have a realistic image of how you're playing, how it sounds, and what you need to work on, what you can improve, and also what you're good at. And that's going to make it easier for you to use recording yourself as a really powerful tool if you want to improve your playing. So the 3 things that I think you need to keep in mind when you're working with this way of practicing that are really going to help you get the most out of it so it becomes a powerful tool and really helps you become your own teacher, where you can really improve from having lessons with yourself, would be first, not to be distracted. So this is something that is extremely important. If you're working on something specific, that is what you're listening for. If you're working on your 8th note phrasing in the sense that you're checking out your swing feel, make sure that when you're recording yourself, you're playing long 8th note lines and that you can really check how do they feel, how do they sit in the groove, how much triplet, how even are they. Focus on that and listen to that. Don't get distracted by the fact that you're not playing blues phrases, or that you're not playing vocal-like melodies, or that the lines are maybe not as interesting as you want them to be, because you're practicing something else, you're focusing on something else, and the other things are just gonna take away from you improving that aspect of your playing. The next thing is that you need to be really specific about what you want it to sound like, and you need to be able to hear the difference. So here we're talking about when you're evaluating yourself from a recording, that you go beyond thinking, well, something is good or bad. You need to be a lot more specific than that. You really need to know what is missing, or figure out what it is you want to improve, what it isn't and what it should be, because otherwise you can't find some good exercises and work on improving that. If you just say, well, this is bad and I want to make it better, you're not being a good teacher. That's actually the worst feedback a teacher can give you, is this sucks, make it better. That's not going to help you. You need some feedback that's going to tell you, okay, I need to play more even, so I'm going to focus on playing more even on a swing groove, or I need to play more laid back, something like that. That's a lot more specific. You can work on that, but first you need to make sure that you can really hear the difference and that you have a strong idea about what you want it to sound like. The third thing that I suggest you keep in mind is that you want to measure progress over time. You're not going to drastically improve something if you practice it and record it in one day and then try the same thing the next day. It takes longer. That means that you can of course record yourself every day. That's a good idea, that's a good habit to have, but don't make long recordings. You don't want to have like hours of your own playing that you have to listen to, because then you're just wasting time where you should be practicing. Keep it short, keep it compact, keep it to a few choruses or one chorus on a standard if you're working on something. Save some of the recordings and measure your progress over time. The reason you want to do that is because that's going to keep you motivated. If you can hear that you are progressing, that you are improving, that something got better, then you stay motivated. If you don't have that feeling, then it gets difficult to just find the motivation to keep on going and keep on practicing. Do you record yourself when you're practicing or when you're playing? Then leave a comment on this video and let us know how you think about working like this, and also how you overcome some of the problems associated with this way of practicing. If you have some videos of yourself practicing and playing, then you could join the Facebook group that I run, which is called Jazz Guitar Insiders. We are 3,000 people over there, all looking to get better at playing jazz guitar, and it's a great place, also a very relaxed place to post videos. If you want to check out another video where I'm talking about some of the different aspects of learning jazz guitar, then check out this video called The 10 Commandments of Learning Jazz. And it's important to check out these things. I think some of them you probably already know you're doing the right way, but there are also important other things that you might be missing, and you don't want to do that.